All right, a blessed day to each and every one of you guys. It's midday where I am. I'm going to have a pretty short stream, but we're going to get into it one time. All praise be to the Most High God. The Most High God comes first in everything we do and say. As a Christian, I believe that. I hope you do too. But if you don't, I hope at least you want to bring goodness in this world. The stream is brought to you by LIVE Products. LIVE, live now, we're live now. In front of you is 5 different flavors of LIVE natural fruit juices. You got sour orange, fruit punch, grapefruit, Morbi. But there are other flavors, and let me show you them right now. We have fruit punch. Punches. We have beetroot. We have peanut butter, and we also have pumpkin. Okay, with the LIVE products, you see these are the punches in the center here: pumpkin, beetroot, and peanut punch. We have other flavors on the side. Here we have sorrow, orange, and lime. But on this side here, we have grapefruit, Morbi, and fruit punch, and the initials are there, G, M, and F. So those are the full line of our drinks. Now, besides drinks, we also have a line of cleaning products, LIVE cleaning products. We have disinfectant, liquid detergent soap for your clothes, fabric softener, and dishwashing liquid. LIVE, live now, we're alive now. Today, we're going to be talking about a number of things. We're going to be talking about Free Palestine. We'll have a conversation also on restoring the Snyderverse. We talk about these things, but I want to put this in context so that everybody gets me. That is to say, when we're talking about restoring the Snyderverse, as profile picture shows, it says, it hurts, doesn't it? Some people are hurting right now with respect to the Batman sequels, and we'll talk about that. But first, let's get into some stuff concerning Gaza. Here is Bernie Sanders as he discusses what he thinks about, he breaks down a little bit what happens with politicians in America and why Netanyahu is getting his way when it comes to America. Let's go.
I get at the root of everything. Now, I have been very critical. I don't know what your view is of what Netanyahu has been doing in Gaza. Okay, I introduced legislation that would stop arms sales to Netanyahu. We got 19 votes, which observers thought was very significant. Right. Significant majority of people who consider themselves Democrats agree with us. I got 19 votes. Okay. The American people do not believe that we should be supporting a government that is starving children right now as we speak. But if you stand up, you're going to find that AIPAC and other billionaire-funded super PACs are going to go to war against you, putting huge amounts of money in a primary in your general election. So it's not a question of not understanding. There are many members of the Senate who will come to you privately and say, my God, what Netanyahu is doing is outrageous. I just can't vote because money is going to come and destroy my political career. So you got to get at the root of everything, not at everything, but a key part of this whole discussion, John, is money in politics. People cannot vote their conscience. They can't vote their intelligence when they know if they vote against the corporate world or the big money world, they're going to get defeated at the polls. I have been very critical. I don't know.
I wanted to cover that first and foremost. I want to start off with Palestine today and not necessarily restore the Snyderverse, which is probably the bulk of my stream is going to be about restoring the Snyderverse. But I had to start off with something that appeals to conscience, and it's ridiculous that we are more than a year into this slaughter of people, and these are normal, ordinary people like you and I, Yes, there are Hamas elements in the north, but they are not fighting amongst the people in refugee camps. Fighting and separate things are going on. So people in the healthcare sector, people in journalism, people in the arts, people in education, people who are trying to assist in feeding other people, all these people are being assassinated. It's literally vindictive assassination, and it's crazy what's going on. Anyways, here is a member of the press. His name is Hossam Shabbat. That's right, Hossam Shabbat. He has a, if you pay attention, Shabbat is a uh, Jewish name. But anyway, Hossam says this. That's how we feel, Hassan. It feels like we're screaming into the void and no one can hear us and no one can stop this madness. Every day I go out reporting, but I'm not even sure for whom. And this is how dire it is out there. It's like a dystopian world where the very powerful are massacring and killing those people who do not have power to really significantly affect them. It feels very dystopian. It feels very much like the future of the world if we don't check this right now. So anyway, of course, Hossam Shabbat, he is a journalist, a press member inside of Palestine. He's managed to survive this long. I'm not trying to put him on blast. I'm using it as an individual, a person, a human being. Hossam Shabbat, he's just a journalist. That's what he does. He's not a weapons holder. He doesn't launder rebels. He has very little to do with the resistance in terms of communicating with them. Okay. The resistance fighters, they're not anywhere amongst the people. They're fighting in other zones. They're doing booby traps and stuff. They wouldn't do, these people know from seeing what has happened to civilians, they're not going to hide amongst the civilians. They're not going to try and bring the war to civilians and jeopardize their lives. So obviously, what is happening to civilians, when it happens to civilians, is being carried out purposefully by the IDF in order to terrorize the people, which is crazy because that can royally backfire on them and people could just resist and they're not afraid to die or anything and just, you know. Okay, so anyway, the point I'm making is that he feels like this doesn't matter what he's doing, but he doesn't understand that all of these reporting that he does gives fuel and ammunition to all of us because he's the voice of what's happening in there. There are no other journalists inside of there except for these journalists. He is helping us to report the war crimes that happen. So every time this journalist, again, you don't need to only do that. You can do the beautiful, the good things that are happening in Palestine, in spite of all things that are happening. That's inspirational. Well, it inspires people. But ultimately, in the end, the most important point is that we get documentation of all the war crimes that have happened in Palestine. The reason Netanyahu doesn't want anybody inside of Gaza or anything like that, and if he could just mow down Gaza into rubble so there's no evidence. He doesn't want anyone to see the extent of the horrific crimes that were committed there. And clearly, these motherfuckers put the Nazis to shame. Like the Nazis are like small fry compared to what these motherfuckers are doing to the Palestinians. And that is very, very, very sad to hear, but it's being enabled by the rest of the world. This is the thing. It's being enabled by the rest of the world, the leaders of the rest of the world. And so the people have to take back the power in their hands. I'm going to talk more about that in a second. Let's just move on to the next thing here.
Children's ward at Nasser Hospital in the south of the Strip says that despite the babies being born healthy, their bodies couldn't withstand the tough winter conditions while living in tents. Israel's war on Gaza has killed at least 45,400 Palestinians. More than half of them are women and children.
Today, we have got new reports from Dr. Hussam Abu Safieh in Kamal Adwan Hospital in North Gaza.
There are approximately 50 martyrs, including 3 of our medical staff, under the rubble of a building opposite Kamal Adwan Hospital after an airstrike by the occupying forces. Dr. Ahmed Samer, a pediatrician, was working in the hospital and went out to the tower where he lived with his family. As for Esra, the laboratory technician, she went out to bring food for her father and brother in the same building, and they were immediately targeted in an airstrike from an Israeli S-16.
They are a terror army executing terrorist attacks on the Palestinian people.
When Fairs, the maintenance technician, saw the scene, he rushed to try to rescue what he could, and unfortunately, he was also targeted, resulting in the martyrdom of 3 of our medical staff and 50 others under the rubble.
They respect no Palestinian life. They respect no international law.
As for the paramedics, Abu Majid and Maher, they were on their way to the hospital near Zaid Roundabout, which is 500 meters from the hospital, when they were targeted and martyred instantly, and their bodies remain in the street where no one can reach them.
They have been reporting that Israeli robotic tanks, they don't even have the courage to fight themselves. They send in robotic tanks that are unloading explosive charges around the hospital, exploding them remotely, damaging the hospital and injuring and killing hospital staff and patients.
It is another dark day in the ongoing series of crimes against Kamal Adwan Hospital and its staff.
Israeli sadistic attacks on civilians in Gaza and in the West Bank continues through the Christmas holidays. We have to continue our solidarity work. We have to continue to increase the pressure on our governments. And don't forget that more than 50 heads of state had the time and the opportunity to get together in Paris a few weeks ago to celebrate the reopening of Notre Dame Cathedral. These state leaders need now to go together and stop Israel and stop the United States. And as the Pope said, this is not war. This is cruelty. And I add, this is not war. This is a sadistic cruelty from the Israelis. And we salute the bravery of the staff in Kamal Adwan hospitals. Today, we have got new reports.
I'm going to watch how quickly the media stopped covering the tragedy at the Christmas market in Germany once the attacker was identified as being a Zionist and not a Muslim, because then they couldn't weaponize his identity to push their narrative and incite hatred amongst right-wingers. It was mind-blowing to watch how quickly the media
كنا نتعلم بالمدرسة حقوق الإنسان إنه من حقه يمارس الرياضة ويلعب ويمرح وين الحقوق هذه؟ أنتم شايفين حقوق عنا؟ حقوقنا ننام على الرمل، حقوقنا نلبس شوارع زي البني آدمين، حقوقنا ما نتدفاش، هذه حقوقنا. إحنا يعني بنشوف الرعب والخوف وحرام اللي بيصير فينا، أطفال غزة تعذبوا كتير، إحنا المفروض نتعلم، إحنا المفروض نعرف نحرف ونعرف نقرأ.
I stand with Israel. Palestine is full of terrorists. They're animals. Well, maybe if Palestine had tried democracy, they wouldn't be in this mess. Now, bro, but like, who started this? Look, I would have supported Palestine, but not like this. What is bro yapping about? Israel will be free. Yeah, I guess I'm just like not that into politics. It doesn't really affect me, so I don't care. Call me selfish. I don't care. Yeah, I just think we have to hear both sides, and find a middle ground. Why can't they just vote on it? So vote harder. They use them as human shields. Did you hear about the beheaded baby? Not to toot our own horn here, but the United States has always been on the side of a two-state solution. I decided to fight the war on terror, on the side of terror.
Thank you to Israel. Thank you to Israel. We're going to have to hold Israel with sincere gratitude and with our deep thanks for not only awakening the world to what you really are, the brutal mentality of your military, of the Knesset, but also of the Western imperialistic machine, because the Palestinians have been enslaved physically for over 76 years now. But what you've illustrated now, through our own research, understanding, and through us now looking objectively and not subjectively at the situations unfolding around the world, is that we also have been held captive in our minds. In our minds. You see, enslaving people, ensnaring our consciousness, in rewriting the history books, eradicating countries, creating a culture of not only fear, but intense propaganda, whereby we always believe that we are the good guys. It only takes a moment, really, to have a look back through history and appreciate that very recently, after 9/11, the imperialistic war machine, driven largely by the USA, has killed over 5 million people globally. And that's only in the last 20 years. We hear of Hitler and the horrendous things he did to the Jewish, without once considering King Leopold and the 20 million Congolese that were murdered, enslaved, eaten. We don't look back and connect the dots between what happened to the Aboriginals, the Native American Indians, of which 50 million were slaughtered by the Western imperialistic machine. The indigenous people, the Maori tribes of New Zealand, the tribes in Borneo, Indonesia, Malaysia. In fact, around the whole globe, there's been a trail of destruction, death, killing, fear, and wrath executed by the Western imperialistic machine. And thank you, Israel, because you've woken us up to all of this. And not only is the West losing the war on all fronts, in the battlefield, it's losing the hearts and minds of its citizens. We, the British, the Americans, the Canadians, the Australians, the Kiwis, we are rising up in our millions. We do not consent, we do not comply, we do not approve. We're pulling our kids out of school, we're withholding our tax. We are opening the history book and realising that we, like the Israeli citizens, have been lied to. We're learning, actually, that Islam is nothing to fear, that our Muslim community, our brothers and sisters, are the most gentle, the most passionate, and the kindest people in our communities. See, Islam has been propaganda and weaponized and vilified. But we have eyes and we have ears, and we're now using our intellect and our time to discover the truth of the matter. We shall rise again. Take care.